Okay, so this game was actually made. This game was actually made for Vodafone for their Indian target audience. The target audience was people, young people who had just joined their call centers, and it was all about tagging. Okay, so it was all about tagging in their CRM system, and this is an assessment game. So what happens in this game is these people who play this game have already been taught about tagging customer calls when they are on the phone with customers, and every phone call that you make to Vodafone has to be tagged, and that is done in the CRM. So the entire thing is around tagging. So you see there is the name of the hero is also Tag Rajan. The 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 game is called Tag Attack and so on. So what happens here is you have these three dacoits and this is your hero, and it's you must have noticed that this is a spoof on Sholay and Quick Gun Murugan. So it's like north and south coming together and that kind of thing, because this was supposed to have a pan India audience, so Hindi speaking and even South Indian audiences. Uh, so what happens in this game is this Thakur comes. I hope all of you are familiar with the characters in Sholay. So there is this famous character played by Sanjeev Kumar who's the Thakur, and he doesn't have hands. So in the movie, so what I'll do is I'll just quickly reduce the volume because this is a noisy game. So these bullets you see here, so Thakur gives you a scenario. It is actually a summary of calls that a person might get at the call center. So here it is transfer to data call center for GPRS setting. GPRS setting is value added service. No, it is not. So what you have to do is actually select the right tag, and these bullets are actually replicated from the drop downs they have in their CRM system. Yeah, so it is probably general. So this was one case that got closed. But must have noticed that I took a few wrong decisions while tagging, and therefore my health has gone down. When I collect the coin, the next scenario gets populated. Lost SIM replacement, LO already suspended. SIM services. So it goes on like this for 40 scenarios. What we have done is just covered two. I'll exit out of here, and when I exit I am getting a score and a game report, and it tells me where I stand in the overall scheme of things, and it tells me what all I missed, and I can exit. There is a level 2 also to this, but the level 2 is just a visual differentiation between 1 and 2. There's only a different visual treatment. So if you see here, it is little more faster. Okay, the next one I'll show you is, So what I have done is I have picked up some games which are a wide range of audience, of subject matter, and so on, and the game genre also. Okay, in the previous game, after the game was played in the classroom, it was played on a small network, and there was a leaderboard, and you could see who was the topper, and there was a healthy competition between these batch of people, and you could play on and on and on, and the scenarios were randomized. So what I'll do is I'll show two games and then maybe ask you folks if there are any questions, and then take those questions and then move on to the next demo. So this one was made for a company called Stream Global, and here the target audience again was new employees to the organization, and this was part of their induction. So here it was actually to teach them about appropriate and inappropriate behavior. And if you noticed, this story is based on a creature or a set of creatures called inappropriatos. So what the story goes that there is this bunch of inappropriatos who probably are aliens have attacked your office, and they are making people do inappropriate things, and you have to find them and trap them. So you see these guys peeping out. So I click on this. It opens up a scenario. So I read this scenario. It says, Andy, I wanted the document yesterday. Is that too much to ask for? It seems okay to me. So I say all okay, but it was not okay. So it was not okay, and I tell that it is incorrect. My selection is incorrect, and it gives me the reason behind why it is incorrect. So it says using harsh words in interactions with colleagues shows poor communication as well as poor manners. So I should have chosen either this or this. So this is a mix of a genre called hidden object and dilemma. So each of these scenarios is a dilemma where you have to take the decision based on what you read. Have you heard what they say about Sean from Training? No, I don't mind some juicy gossip. Tell me. So this seems like either it is attitude or it is discriminatory comment. So I will pick this. And yes, it was right. So even if it is right, we give feedback. And in these kind of games, we expect a lot of learning to happen. In fact, most of the learning to happen through the feedback. And therefore, we also reinforce the correct decision that a person has taken by giving him feedback which is toned slightly differently. And then you move on to the next level. Same office, many more people, lot of inappropriatos. So there are three scenarios here. So there's nothing wrong here. So it goes on like this. So this was the second game I thought I should show you. A very simple format yet very effective. It is much better than just having to tell people in a PPT what you can do and what you should not do. So basic do's and don'ts which have been converted into a game. So what I'll do now is I'll check with you guys if you have any questions. Okay. Nebu is asking about what technology was used to create these games. Both the games that I showed you were made in Flash, and there are a couple of more questions coming. Where else can we apply gamification is a very, very wide open kind of question, and I would say you can apply gamification to almost anything and everything. If you look at, if I mean, one of the forms of gamification is what we do every day, especially if you're a credit card user. The more you spend, the more points you earn, and so on, and then you can redeem those points. So that's a form of gamification, I would say. Okay, there are a few more questions here. Uh, Yes, Vidya, answering Vidya's question, which says this type of gaming will be more appropriate while providing training to employees. Is that possible? Yes, definitely it is possible. And what I am showing you are training games. They are not games which are played just for entertainment. They are training games, and we specialize in training and making training programs and training games. Uh, then there is LVK Pratap P asking designer, storyboard writers. Yes, I will come to that a little while from now. Uh, any other any other question I miss? Yeah, so who all are involved? Definitely, there's a game designer. So there are various profiles. So there is one person who is called the project manager. So I'll come to these roles a little later. So let me continue with the demos because I think you will be interested in seeing more and more types of games, and then we can then talk about the process and all that. Yeah, so without spending too much time on the questions now, I will come straight to the other demos that I have with me. So this game was made for a American client, specifically in the area. Their business is cruise lines, luxury cruise liners, and this was to teach their housekeeping staff about bed bug infestation, and where to find them and how to get rid of them. So this was made in a technology called Unity 3D. This is not a flash game. This is a 3D game where we actually modeled the room, where we actually modeled the room in 3D and then made this game. So the genre of this game is actually a hidden object game, and the point of view is called first person shooter. So first person shooter is you don't see the player, but you see through the eyes of the player, or the player is put in the camera. I mean, to explain it simply. So what I'll do is I'll keep playing this because it has really interesting dialogues, which these bedbugs keep pestering you about.
Gurkesh, can we play a little bit background music of the game?
Sorry,
Music of the game. Little bit sound.
lower it.
No, no, we are not hearing any sound,
You're
background
not
sounds
hearing
of the
the
game.
fun of this game is in the sound because it's a very funny game.
Yeah, if you could hear that, that would be good.
Can you hear? Could you hear the
Uh,
dialogues?
no, no, nothing. Yeah, we'll just, no, not hearing. Earlier I was hearing actually. When
No,
you
now there's no music. There is only dialogues.
okay, no dialogues are here.
So the music kicks in if you don't do too many things. You don't find somebody. Then see, make note of things like this. Excellent,
Okay.
because we found eggs there. We
Hmm.
we are playing with words in many places like tag Rajan, tag attack for tagging, and then here bedbug bedbugs. We are using eggs and all.
I think they are not
So
hearing.
so I'm
Can you just check your audio once? Some people are not hearing.
The audio is on. एक minute, huh? One sec. Let me just see. The audio is on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Maybe the game audio, like yeah, game audio they're telling.
Game audio is also on. I'm wondering why. Anyway, so what I'll do because we are at 10:25, I will quickly go through a couple of more demos
Yes, yes.
and show you some of the nice games. So by now you must have noticed that most of our games are based on some story or the other. So the story, the development of story is actually teamwork between the game designer and the writer. So both of them need to work in tandem and creatively to get the right story.
Yeah, game audio is not.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's fine. Now it's fine. Yeah, now it's fine.
Analyze the sample. Spot the unusual green cells.
So you will be surprised to know that the objective of this game was to tell a select few research scientists in Unilever that sharing their research data, their research papers are is a very important part of their job and they should do it. What they have observed is that people do a lot of research. Unilever being a multinational, they have research centers all over the globe. And what happens is people do research and it is very local. It stays with that person or that small group, and the entire organization doesn't benefit from that research. So if somebody is researching on that topic in a later point of time or simultaneously. He or she doesn't know that something else is going on another part of the world. So it is important to share data, and when you're sharing, you should open the data or the documents to everybody concerned and give right kind of tags so that it is easy for people to find out. So this is what we try to do in this game, and it is a fantasy based story. You will notice that this is not real life story, and it is a very fantasy oriented story. But what we've done is, at the end of the game, at the end of the game, we have drawn this parallel between what you did in the game and what it represents in real life. So it was like a end of the game titles kind of a sequence where you actually did all these things in the game and how they tie to real life. I'll quickly show you a couple of more games. Okay, this one is very interesting.
This game-based module is made for chef operators on Holland America line ships. The objective is to teach you how to operate the rational oven.
So
Rational ovens have
there is a
complex
oven
mechanisms.
on the kitchens of these ships, which is slightly complex to use, and it has an interface that has timings and settings for various types of dishes. And to use that, it requires a little amount of skill in or knowledge of the interface. So this game is made to teach people in the kitchens how to use that oven, or rather how to use the interface of that oven.
With several preset modes to prepare different types of food. There are 4 levels.
So
Match
this is
these
the oven.
labels with parts of the rational oven before a note corresponding
So
to
what you
each
see
step
here is the
reaches
actual
bottom.
interface.
Hit a note when it's still in the God of Rock band to earn a higher rank. You'll be applauded for hitting the right notes. Throughout the game, the player practices on the various food items served aboard HAL ships.
It is 2200 hours, and the MS Rotterdam touches the shores of Tanah Ampo in Bali. Ni La, a stateroom attendant, packs food, water, and some personal belongings like iPad and towels.
I'm so excited to meet my family, but I only have 8 hours before the ship leaves. I must hurry. What is that light? It looks so strange. Is someone weeping in there? Let me have a look.
So this game was made to teach towel folding to the housekeeping staff of this cruise line company, and we had initially developed a story around Jack and the Beanstalk, and we presented the concept to the client, and the client went through it, but they said it is not going to work for us. The reason being, most of their target audience is not English speaking, and they are from a particular country, like they are from Philippines. Sorry, not Philippines, Thailand. And they said they have not been schooled in English, although they speak very basic English. So, a theme that is based, or a story that is based on Jack and Beanstalk may not work with them. They will instantly disconnect from the story. So, why don't you guys come back with a story that is closer to them? So, we went and researched and found out an Indonesian story which was close to that.
Ah! Where am I?
just like me. Many years ago, I was cursed by the witch Sakti. She trapped me in this cave. Oh,
Will make you pay.
So what you have to do is
Trapped in the
make
cave.
these uh,
Which animals?
make these 8 animals, and then the curse will be broken.
What curse? An unkind deed will make you pay. Trapped in the cave, you will stay. Till one day you are touched with the flutter of a butterfly, the might of an elephant, the claw of a lobster, the sting of a ray, the feather of a peacock, the love of a dog, the bite of a scorpion, and the curse will come undone.
Okay, so these are the animals that you're going to learn.
But bring these animals to you.
place it horizontally on the bed, smoothing all creases.
So we first show a video of the animal making. So there are 8 videos, and after the videos are done, after each video is done, you have to actually try and make it yourself in this virtual workspace.
Add the eyes. Oh, and pinch it to form the trunk. 17, place the head on the body, and then add the eyes.
So in between we had knowledge checks.
Select the towel required to make the elephant's body. Select the towel required to make the elephant's trunk.
You're no longer a monster.
That's right. I was a prince cursed into becoming a monster. But you brought the 7 animals to me, and their touch transformed me back into a prince. I'm very pleased with you. You have not only earned your freedom, but a little something with it too.
Yeah, so I have lot many more demos, but I think we will run out of time if I keep going on with the demos. So let me now open up this session for no, wait. I need to actually show you the process, right? So I will go to my PPT and I will start the PPT. Okay, before we move to the PPT, let me also show you a very recent game, and that's very different from what you have seen so far. And it is actually a board game, a physical board game to teach HR concepts. So the board game is also based on a story. It is a journey, and there are 4 people, 4 teams with two. It can have 2 to 4 team members, and the set contains a roll-up board, a set of cards, a set of pawns, scoring sheets, participant guides, and a game master's manual. And there is a elaborate story, and there's a board which is a big size board. This was meant to be played on a large table by about 12 to 16 people at a time, and there will be 4 teams, each one starting from one end of the board and trying to reach the center. And along the way you had different challenges. So sometimes you would come across this challenge, and sometimes this, and sometimes another one. So based on what you're crossing, you have to pick a that particular team has to pick up a card. So we had these cards, and some of them were scenarios where you had to take a certain decision, and some of them were quiz questions. And then there were shocks, and this bandit actually represents a poacher who takes your employee at a certain price. So here he asks for one of your team members. So this game also is based on a elaborate story, and not this is not online, and it is actually played by people in a room. Then at the end of the game, there is a PPT in which we actually debrief the participants with what they did in the game and how it maps to the principles, the HR principles that their company follows. And then there's a game master's manual with how to set up the game, how to get the game started, what each tile means, and so on and so forth. This is another game we did for another customer, a very elaborate game, again based on a journey. So you see there are pawns, there is the actual board, there is a manual, there are various types of cards, and it's all packed in a box. Okay, so let me quickly get down to the other part that we have to cover today, which is it all starts with a problem statement, where usually the customer comes to us and says we have this training which people find boring, or we have this subject which is not interesting enough for people to go through, and so on. So our people are actually falling asleep. I don't know why you can't see that sleeping man. So the actual concept of the game actually comes in right at the beginning. So right at the proposal stage, we have the seed of an idea which we then propose to the customer with basic sketches and basic outline of the game. Yeah, and then this is put together by a team. Like earlier, somebody asked me, what is the team that makes these games? So there is a game designer, there is a business analyst, or an instructional designer. The instructional design, I'm using the term instructional designer. It can be interchanged with a technical writer. So the technical writer or the creative writer is the person who writes or thinks about the story, puts in the dialogues, and does all the writing that is required for the game. The game designer focuses on the game story, the game mechanics, the scoring, and how it will be played, and so on and so forth. And the visual designer obviously looks at the visual aspects. If there is a technical part, so if there is coding involved, then there's a technical architect, and there's a person called a project manager. And typically in gaming companies, this particular role is also called the producer, the game producer. So he's the guy who keeps the entire team together, and he's the interface between the team at the back end and the customer. So the idea is converted into a plan, we have a timeline, and we start the project. The action begins. So there are three steps. We do a system study and analysis, and then there is a design phase. There are subject matter experts involved, because most of the subjects are very specific to that particular customer, and we don't have subject matter expertise. So we depend a lot on the subject matter experts of the customer, and then we make a prototype, and then we produce. The tools that we use are, of late, most of our games are now being made in HTML5. Earlier they used to be Flash, and we also use extensively, we use Photoshop and Unity 3D. So in the design phase, we make something called the design document, which gives the customer the flavor of what is coming in terms of the game. So we make sketches, we describe the game. It's a detailed description. It tells you what the theme of the game will be, how it will flow, what will be the elements on screen, and some interactions and so on. What we are going to cover, list of activities, list of challenges, the timing and scoring, completion criteria, and so on. And then what you get is something like this. Yeah, so if you notice the initial sketches, if you see this, they're actually made the same way. So the storyboards and the design documents that we are making nowadays for the games are very visual. So what they see at the design phase is what they get when we actually produce it. So the recent trends that we have are that people are demanding device agnostic games. They say they should run on all platforms, mobiles, tablets, various browsers. So that is quite a nightmare for us as developers, but that is the market demand. The design has started becoming minimalistic, so flat design, card design, those kind of things we are now getting into. Many of our games are also integrated with social media. So if you play a game, you like it, you put it up on social media, and then somebody else catches on. You can challenge people and say, I have got this score, can you top it? So there are leaderboards and stuff like that. And then there is analytics involved. So how many people could answer a particular correct answer, question correctly, or how many people could do that activity in the expected amount of time and so on. So there's a lot of data that the game collects, and that is what is used for analyzing. So yeah, now what we'll do is I will now open the session for questions. So I'll stop sharing and move to the Adobe Connect interface.
Durgesh, you can answer the question over audio.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, like, you read the question and then you can
Yeah, so
answer.
I will answer
You need
this
not to
one.
type. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll answer this one. Can we use this type of gaming in software industry? Yes, definitely we can use gaming in the software industry. Although most of the games that we've done are not for software, and they are mainly for procedures and soft skills and teaching of concepts and so on. But definitely there are games that can be used for software industry. I have a couple of them, but they are quite dated, so I have not shown them. I have a couple of them. One of them was to use a software to make telecom packages for customers. And then there is one do you recollect the Vodafone game? That was actually a software assessment. I mean, that actually was to teach or test people on tagging, the Tag Rajan game. Okay, one second. I will expand this. Okay, one sec. Which is the one that I answered? One sec. Appropriate for providing training.
Idea of timeline.
Yeah.
Give us an idea.
Okay,
Jyoti
one
has
sec.
asked.
Now, how gamification practices help us UX designers solving problem? Now, that's a very open and wide question. It actually depends on the problem itself, but definitely there are people who use games and gamification for problem solving. If you recollect the game that I showed, which we made for Unilever, that was a problem. That was a game that was aimed at changing behaviors. Yes, these were all of the games that I showed you were training games. Okay, the roles, yes, there were designers and writers. Any small examples? Yes, I showed you examples. What about older audiences? That's a good question. Now, older audiences also like playing games, but the games that we make for them have to be simpler and easy to play. And that does not really apply only for older audiences. There are people who are younger but who may not be gamers. Of late, because of this explosion in devices like tabs and smartphones, people have games in their hand all the time. But the older audiences, yes, they are not gamers. So I have this constant challenge in my group where the game designers are hardcore gamers and our target audience are not gamers, so I have to constantly pull them down and bring them to a level where I have to keep telling them you are designing for non gamers, please keep it simple. Do you train technical writers to develop these games? No, we don't train technical writers. The training is on the job. We just push them into writing and hammer them into writing stuff for us. And if you noticed, each game was very different, and the content that went into it, the style of writing was different. So there is no, there are no rules in writing for games except that you have to have your grammar correct. So you can't do GSPs in writing, but other than that, it is a very creative way of writing you can follow. There are no, the rules are very basic that you can't make mistakes, you can't make basic GSP mistakes, but anything that you think will go with your particular type of audience is fine. The other thing is you have to keep things simple, and depending on the device that you're going to deliver your games on, the length of writing and the length of dialogues, etc., have to be uh, kept in mind. Okay, can't hear anything. Hope you're okay.
How easy is to add modules? Someone asked.
Yeah, do you follow the agile methodology? Yes, we do follow the agile methodology where at every step of the project we have the alignment from the customer and agreement before we proceed, and we make small bits and then proceed. So it's a step by step, small bit by bit, and that is actually agile. Do demo progressive work? Yes, we do, and not only work, we also run the scripts and the storyboards with them, and then they make changes, and we get them finally in the game. And there are times when when the storyboards have been reviewed by the customer, the everything has been finally made, and it is up on the server for people to play, and then somebody find something that's objectionable. For example, in the Bedbugs game, we used for the American audience, we used words which they don't normally use in their conversation, like gringo and stuff. So they actually got us to remove those words after it was finally made and everything was done. So we had to do a bit of re-recording. Give us an idea of the timeline. Okay, timeline wise, it is a wide timeline. So, a small game, a very basic small game, can take anywhere from 5 weeks to 8 weeks, and a larger and a more complex game can take anywhere from 12 to 15 weeks. How easy is it to add modules and levels to a game? Does it have to be redone or is it modular? So it depends. It depends on the design brief that is given to us at the beginning of the project. If the customer says that we want it to be modular, we structure it such that you can add modules later. But most of the time, if you see our games, most of them have a finite starting point and an ending point. Yes, if we can insert modules in between or add modules, but then definitely it will call for major structural change, at least code wise.
Next question is, I think, about voiceover.
Yeah, so that's a nice question. The voiceover, if you noticed the Bedbugs game, it was a very creative kind of voiceover, and that is something that we did in-house because the regular voiceover artists that we have as third-party voiceover artists could not supply us with that. So what we did is we actually had a small competition in the organization where we said, okay, guys, come on, read out these dialogues as so and so. If you, I mean, put yourselves in the shoe of a Mickey Mouse and read this out. And then we selected people who could do that, and then we did the recording. So it depends on where and what we require. Uh, some of the things are done in-house, some outside. But we do have a sound studio, a sound engineer, and a music composer or a music this what is he called? What does he call? Music designer, and he is the guy who adds that magic, the music to the whole thing. Do you have any?
Standards.
No, no standards as such. It's a very unregulated kind of a work or industry. It's like the film industry. So, I mean, there are basic standards like the screen size, the device, the resolutions and stuff like that. But as such, for gamifications, there are no standards. There are some basic rules, like there are some basic gamification rules about how to keep people motivated, how to challenge them, and what kind of rewards you can give, and so on and so forth. But other than that, there are no standards as such. Like Microsoft Apple style guides for technical writers, any reference? No, to understand is no. Not that I know of, but I'm sure if you do some search on the net, you will find some very good resources. But like I said earlier, the writers that we get on board are just put into this and they kind of learn to swim as they are drowning. So it's that kind of training. But what we look for in writers when we hire a writer or when I take a writer in my group is that somebody who is not molded into a writer, somebody who can think creatively. If somebody can write dialogues for a film or a play, then I would prefer that kind of a writer than a writer who has just written for textbooks or so. What skills does one need to develop to get good at this? That's a very difficult question. I mean, how do I tell you what skills? I would say creativity is the most important skill you need because each project that you do has its specific challenges, and coming up with new ideas every time, that is sometimes very challenging. So we of course we do have some cookie cutters, and some of the projects that we do are very new meaning every idea is new. Okay, Priya, no, I am talking more on the writing style types. I didn't get this question.
No, she's asking whether we have any style guides to be, any specific style guides to
No,
be followed.
no, 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 no. In fact, you will see that most of the games that we have written are very basic and plain simple English, and sometimes we have taken off on words based on some subject matter. For example, you will recollect that pointed out to that excellence X, because that guy found uh, bedbug eggs. We, instead of saying excellent, we said excellence. So right now we are doing a game for a company which is based on code of conduct, and there we are using pirates as a theme. So code of conduct is, I mean, you are fighting against pirates, and there we have used that kind of language which the pirates of the olden times used to speak. How about maintenance of these games? What exactly do you mean? How easy is it to maintain these games? It depends. So, if a game was made in a technology which is now outdated, then it is a challenge. And sometimes we prefer then to build it up, ground up again. But that is a very rare case. It is easy to maintain these games in terms of the text on screen. All the text on screen is usually kept in an XML file, and it is pulled from an XML file. So if you want to do any small text changes to the text on screen, then it can be done pretty easily. If there are structural changes, then it is a challenge, and then you have to open up the entire Pandora's box and then get into code level changes.
This maybe another 4 or 5 minutes we can.
Oh, you have a session starting soon, no?
Yeah, other session is going to start at 11:15 itself.
Okay. Do you have professional artists in your team, or do you? We don't. We have professional artists. In fact, the eight people team that I have here, two of them are professional artists, so trained artists who can make sketches. Myself, I am a designer myself, so I am also trained in making sketches. So some of the sketches that you saw in the PPT were made by me, and then they are taken up by a professional artist. Stiff upper lip companies may not appreciate this method. How do you address such a challenge? Are there serious games? The what I showed you were serious games. So they were meant for training, and actually we've got mixed response from different kinds of companies. Typically, traditional companies have said, I mean, there is a 50-50 chance of acceptance and rejection. So there are people who have liked it so much that they've said, this is the best training I have ever seen in my 10 years at so and so company. Whereas there's the other extreme which says, I wish you had done this in the classroom. So there is no real statistics which can tell you how well this goes or how well it does not go. But usually people appreciate that this is a new way of teaching, and they kind of lap it up. There are no easy to draw tools. It is an acquired or a developed skill. Some people have it inborn, but what my in my team, people who cannot draw actually go on the net, search appropriate images and do a cut paste in something as basic as Photoshop or even PPT. Yes, we do. Of late we have started making games as an app, but you will not get to download them in the open space because most of them, in fact, all of them are for specific target audiences and not for general public.
I think you are done with the questions.
How is the international competition in your kind of work? Yes, we have good amount of competition, and recently we were pitched against the makers of Angry Birds, who are like considered gods in the industry. But unfortunately, both the parties didn't win that contract. It went to somebody else altogether. And interestingly, it went to a university in the US. But yes, we do have good stiff competition from people in India also and internationally. Yeah, I'm kind of done, and I think the questions have also stopped.
Yeah. I will. Any further questions? I think I will
You
interact
can
with.
email me.
Yeah, email you. Yeah. Okay, Durgesh. Thank you very much for taking your time and coming all the way to your office and give this session.
Thank you. It
Also,
was a
thanks to all
pleasure.
participants. Yeah. So it was interesting, and we just learned how it happens in the real time.
Yeah, in fact, I wish we had a longer session because I could have gone into details and people could have asked questions. So, if you guys need a follow-up session where we get more into the depth of the process, then we can do one more session sometime soon. So, Padmaja, I am okay with one more session if you guys feel you guys can decide, and I can do one more session if you want.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll just plan it, and I mean, you have to tell your time so that we can
Yeah.
definitely have another session.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Durgesh. Thank you
So
very much.
I'm logging out. Huh? Thank you guys. Thank you for your patience, and I hope you found it useful.